Hey everybody, welcome back to another Surgical Tech Tips. Today's video is going to be the Surgical Tech Q&A. It's been a while since we've done a Q&A. I think the last one was probably the last live video when I hit 20,000 subs. It was quite a few months ago, I think. I don't remember how many months, but we're at 35,000 subs now, which is crazy awesome. I did ask you guys on YouTube if you had any questions for this video, and I had 43 responses. So I am obviously not going to be able to answer all 43 of these, or this would be like a 45-minute long video, but we will get to a lot of these questions. So here we go. Number one with the most likes, Nick923, go over the anesthesia machine with a smiley face. Dude, I know, man. I've been doing this channel for almost 2 years now, and doing a video on the anesthesia machine has been on that like video priority list for a very long time. I've wanted to have an anesthesiologist to be able to go over the machine with me. Just because I don't know all the ins and outs of the machine personally, as you know, nearly as well as an anesthesiologist does. And it's just timing and schedules. You know, everybody's got families. I got a family. We got baseball on the weekends on the time with my son, and they got families and they're doing stuff and they're on vacations. And I've actually finally found an anesthesiologist that's willing to do a video with me. It's just a matter of us syncing up our schedules and coming in on the weekend and shooting a video together. So it's gonna happen eventually. I can't tell you when, but it'll happen eventually. Second question here is Timothy Williams. Great question, by the way. This is the first time I've ever heard a question like this. It says, could you go over emergency evacuation procedures for the OR during a case, especially if the entire hospital needs to be evacuated quickly, such as for a natural disaster, terrorist attack, etc. Thanks. That is a great subject, and that's a pretty in-depth subject, to be honest with you. That would probably encompass a video in and of itself, and I think that's a great idea to just make a whole video about that. And it's something, when you're working at a hospital, we have these kind of like continuing education things that we have to do in the hospital, not only going over policy and stuff like that, but evacuation procedures, you know, fire disasters, any types of like weird situations like that you might be thrown in. And it's part of like our yearly CEUs that we have to do working in a hospital. So it would be really cool to make a video about that, I think. Thank you for the question. Third question here is from Starfleet Has Tanks. What type of operations or types of operations are techs most directly involved in terms of needing to manipulate tissue or organs? Kind of an open question. You could be utilized as a first assist if there's no, you know, residents or, you know, medical students or FAs around. It could be something as small as an inguinal hernia, which is, you know, maybe like a 2-inch incision, and you're just holding 2 baby riches open as the surgeon is fixing the hernia. It could go as far as, you know, a surgeon requesting to have 2 techs in, you know, total knees or total hips, and, you know, the second tech, there's one tech that's passing instruments, the other tech is there to hold retractors and help manipulate tissue. So it really could be any number of specialties, because surgeons are always going to need an extra hand to hold something. Can't really nail it down to, you know, any specific type of specialty, because it really is kind of all over the place with needing help. All right, next question is Ren Cooper. Which pays more, travel ST or military ST? And what are some of the pros and cons of each? I'm torn between these 2 careers for when I've completed my program. I have never been either of those. I've never been a travel ST or a military surgical tech, but I can tell you that majority of the time the government usually pays you less, because you get so many other, you know, benefits to working for the government, like pension and stuff like that, if you end up working in the military for so many years. I don't know how many it is, 20, 25 years or something like that. But I can guarantee you working as a travel surgical tech will net you a lot more money. But there are some pros and cons to being a travel surgical tech. I mean, you're not really nailed down to any certain place. Most of the time you'll have to carry your own health insurance and dental insurance and stuff like that. And if that's okay with you, that's fine. But a lot of the premium type salaries you will get from being a travel surgical tech for sure. That's when you see a lot of things out there like $40-something an hour for a travel ST to come work in, Northern California for 3 months or something like that. Good question. Next question is Aquarius Aesthetic. My boyfriend's mother was an RN, and he was told that she was mainly responsible for handing over surgical tools to a surgeon. A lot of the research shows that surgical techs are the ones who hand the surgeon what they need. I'm guessing this varies just depending on the hospital. Yeah, so nurses are registered nurses used to basically be surgical techs. They were the ones handing instruments before this, surgical tech position kind of started. But I think I can't tell you how many years surgical technology has been around now, but it's definitely becoming more commonplace to have surgical tech in the room handing instruments and an RN or circulating nurse circulating the room. That's definitely more commonplace. But there are definitely some places in the U.S. that still utilize nurses as techs passing instruments. At my hospital, we have personally trained a couple of our RNs to scrub hearts with us just so they can fill in for us. They can open up a room for us if it's like a super busy day, and it's great to have that available. Next one is Hannah Dickerson. Is the operating room ever dark? Yes. Sometimes when you're in laparoscopic procedures or robotic procedures, just to get rid of some of that like ambient light that's kind of hard in your eyes when you're trying to focus on a monitor. It's easier to focus on a monitor when you kind of turn down the room lights. You definitely turn away the OR lights out of the way because it just puts glare on the monitors and stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely some times where the room is dark. Next question is Sierra Gibson. I was just wondering how I can get the most out of my clinicals. How can I be a good clinical student and stay on the hospital staff's good side? I think I've said this a few times before, but just to reiterate, taking notes is key when you are in a clinical setting and you're doing cases, real cases. Taking notes every single day and trying to remember all the steps of the procedure that you have done. So let's say you go through your full day in your clinical site and you do like 3 or 4 cases. At the end of the day, when you go home, try and just write down everything that you remember of that day. And even if you have time during cases and you can take those little cards off of your gown, that you keep them on the sterile field and just write little notes on those every now and then if there's time during the surgery. But just showing a general interest in what you're doing and a general interest in the cases that you do, not being picky about which cases you're going to be going into, and just generally being like a nice person because nice people can be hard to come by sometimes when it comes to an OR setting. So just generally being like a helpful, nice person will definitely impact the hospital staff. All right, next question is from J. Tom. What happens if somebody calls out? For example, what happens if the surgeon calls out? What happens to the patient's surgery? Do you get to choose whether or not you get to work in trauma cases or outpatient procedures, transplants, etc., or are you assigned all over the place? I ask this because I currently work in a level 1 trauma center, and has there ever been a surgery where you were grossed out, and how did you overcome that? So to start out, what happens if somebody calls out? If there's another surgical tech that calls out, obviously the charge nurse's job at that front board is to move people around and try and keep the cases going. It does happen sometimes where you get a call out and if it's in a day where you're already running a skeleton crew, it could be extremely difficult. And if it's to the point where there is just not enough staff to do the cases, they will have to delay patient surgeries, and they will have to delay doctors and kind of stack rooms and just move rooms around just to keep the day going. The surgeons are not happy when that happens, but it can happen. What happens if the surgeon calls out? Well, that means the cases are canceled. Whatever, case lineup they have for the day, they're canceling all of their cases, and that's it. Unless they have a partner that they've called and the partner is willing to do some of the cases for them, majority of the time they just cancel out their day and they're done. And that has happened to me before, where we've had a surgeon that was just, a lot of the times these surgeons, they work while they're still sick. They're constantly here, they're constantly doing their surgeries, and they want to take care of their patients, even though they don't want to take care of themselves. But I had one time last year where our surgeon just came down with the worst flu, and I remember working with him the day before, and he just looked like death, just absolutely looked like death. And thank goodness he canceled his whole day the following day and took a rest day, because he definitely needed it. As far as what do you get to choose as far as working in trauma cases and stuff like that, transplants, I guess it kind of depends on where you work. In my hospital setting, our surgical techs and our circulators, we've kind of gotten to this point where most of us are kind of positioned in certain specialties, and we just kind of rotate around those specialties. So, but there are a few of us that bounce around to the different specialties and help out and give breaks and stuff like that. That's just my hospital setting, though. Different hospital settings could be the complete opposite of that. You could just be thrown into any specialty, any case. Who knows? It really just depends on the circulator and kind of what they like to do. I personally feel like having a surgical tech and circulating team that works with a specific surgeon majority of the time usually ends up in a happier surgeon, smoother cases, because they work with that same team all the time. You create a relationship with that group, you work together, you do those same cases all the time. The tech knows exactly what the doctor needs, the circulator knows exactly what the doctor needs. It makes everything run a lot smoother that way, but I know not all hospitals operate that way. And have I ever been grossed out on a surgery? Yeah, I've been grossed out. I've been grossed out on a surgery. I remember one surgery specifically. It was like a pelvic exoneration, and it was this like old nasty decubitus ulcer that just like included the anus, and there was like cancer in the colon. It basically ended up being this like giant crater of like dead necrotic tissue in this person's pelvis, and it was just yeah, it smelled horrible, it looked horrible. That was probably one of the grossest surgeries I've ever seen. All right, last question here. I cannot pronounce your name, and I apologize for that, but how has life turned out to be after being in the medical profession, and what is the most positive change you see in yourself? Love your videos, and I'm a medical student as well. Man, that's a really great question. My life has changed drastically being in the medical profession. A lot of kids, when they graduate high school, they don't really know what to do. They end up going to college, but you don't really know what to do. And I felt really bad the first couple years of college because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I kind of felt like I wasted my parents' money, which I did. And a couple years out of dropping out of college, I stumbled upon surgical technology, and then I found a career school related to it, and it was just, everything has been like on an upwards ramp, and you know, since I found, you know, this medical profession that I love so much. And it's impacted my life, it's impacted my family's lives. I've met and gotten to work with a lot of really amazing people, incredibly smart people, and have made just incredible friends over the course of my career so far. And not only that, but it's brought me here to make videos for you guys because I love it so much. And I'm getting a whole nother like aspect of the medical field in relation to like students and you know, regular pedestrians that are just interested in the hospital setting and in medical professions. So it's just been amazing. I can't put a better word to it. It's just been amazing. And I always thank you guys for watching the videos and sharing them, but I truly am thankful for everybody that watches these, because it does take a lot of time, you know, out of my week to create something like this. And it's been almost 2 years now doing videos on YouTube, and I'm just very, very thankful for, you know, everything that you guys have liked. I don't think I've had like a negative review on any of the videos, so it's been pretty amazing, and I'm just very thankful for everything related to this profession. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the little Q&A. I'm gonna try and go on to that post, and for any of the questions I didn't answer, I'm going to try and answer on that post as well. So if you didn't hear your name or hear your question, check back on that post, and hopefully I answered it on there. But yeah, thanks guys, I'll see you again. Bye.